good morning. Today we are going to start section 3. It's a collection of essays. We can see that there are 2 essays in this section. We are going to start the first chapter in this section 3rd. It is Bores, written by E.V. Lucas. Maybe many of you are very familiar with E.V. Lucas. Let us begin with E.V. Lucas. E.V. Lucas, full name Edward Verrall Lucas, English essayist, editor, biographer, novelist, critic, journalist, poet, autobiographer, short story writer, playwright, and satirist. E.V. Lucas, his full name was Edward Verrall Lucas. He proved his talent in many fields as an English essayist, editor. She also wrote biographies, novels. He was a critic and also journalist. He wrote poems, autobiographies, short stories. He also wrote plays. He was a well-known satirist. We will go through his each and every field in detail. E.V. Lucas was born in 1868 and died in 1933. He was a journalist with a very wide range of learning. He is recognized as the preeminent editor of Charles Lamb's works and the biographer of Lamb. E.V. Lucas was born in 1868. He died in 1933. I already told you he was a journalist. He had a very wide range of learning. He is very familiar as the greatest editor of Charles Lamb's works. He also wrote the biography of Charles Lamb. I know all of you know Charles Lamb very well. Who is Charles Lamb? Charles Lamb was an English essayist, poet, best known for his essays and also children's book. E.V. Lucas' edition of the life and letters of Charles Lamb was the result of his lifelong sympathy and devoted research. We can see that E.V. Lucas made a lot of research relating Charles Lamb. As a result, he wrote the biography of Charles Lamb. E.V. Lucas was a versatile writer. He compiled numerous anthologies, wrote a dozen novels, published many travelogues. He is also reputed as a reputed writer of light conversational essays, of which there are some 30 volumes. There is no doubt it is E.V. Lucas was a multi-talented writer. He composed numerous anthologies. What is anthology? Anthology is a published collection of poems. I already told you E.V. Lucas was a poet. He composed many anthologies. He also wrote a dozen novels. At the same time, he was also interested in writing travelogues. He published many travelogues. So, he is also reputed as a reputed writer of light conversational essays, of which there are some 30 volumes. He used his own style in writing essays. We can see that he wrote 30 volumes. The essays of Lucas are found in Character and Comedy. It was published in 1907. Old Lamps for New, published in 1911. Loiter's Harvest Cloud and Silver, published in 1916. His essays enjoyed immense popularity. They are marked by fancy, literary articles, common sense, lightness of touch, wit, ease, irony, and humor. His humor, though generally kind and human, is sometimes almost harsh and savage. We already understood that E.V. Lucas was very famous as an essayist. His essays got a worldwide attention. They are noticed by fancy literary articles, common sense, lightness of touch, wit, ease, irony, and humor. So we will get all the elements in his essays. We can enjoy humor. We can feel the imagination. We can understand the common sense. We can touch the simplicity. We can identify the real judgment. He also used the irony in his essays. That's why I told you we will get all the elements throughout his essays. Fancy, literary articles, common sense, lightness of touch, wit, ease, irony, and humor. About his humor, it is generally kind and humane. But sometimes when we go through his words, definitely it is very cruel and violent. Lucas achieved success as a prolific author of light, entertaining popular non-fiction and novels. He was best known as a witty and observant essayist whose interests ranged from sports and domestic life of fine art and literature. His notable products in other genres include travel guides, literary anthologies, and an acclaimed series of scholarly works on the writer Charles Lamb. I already told you, Lucas was a multi-talented person. He was a very creative writer. He entertained the readers through his popular non-fiction and novels. He wrote novels, short stories, and biographies. He was best known as a witty and observant essayist. He was a keen observer. He was interested to observe all the minute things around him. At the same time, he was very clever too. He was interested from sports and domestic life to fine art and literature. He observed all the things very keenly. He acquired the knowledge in sports, domestic life, fine art, and also literature. So we can feel the reflection of all these topics throughout his essays. In addition to that, he also wrote travelogues, literary anthologies. He was also interested in writing biographies. That's why he wrote biography of Charles Lamb. Then I want to give details of his biographical information. Lucas grew up in a middle-class Quaker family in Brighton. After an early apprenticeship to a bookseller, he worked as a journalist, eventually moving to London, where he joined the staff of the newspaper The Globe, and later the literary journal The Academy and the humor magazine Pinch. Lucas grew up in a middle-class Quaker family. Quaker means members of a Christian group of religious movements, generally known as the Religious Society of Friends. They believed in the ability of each human being to access God in each of us through experience. I repeat, Quaker is a member of the Society of Friends, a Christian group that holds informal meetings instead of formal church services and is opposed to the use of violence under any circumstances. Its meaning is already given in your textbook. ക്വാക്കർ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് സുഹൃത്തുക്കളുടെ ക്രിസ്തീയമായിട്ടുള്ള മതപരമായിട്ടുള്ള വിഭാഗത്തിനെയാണ്. ഓരോ മനുഷ്യനും അവരവരുടേതായിട്ടുള്ള അനുഭവങ്ങളിലൂടെ ദൈവത്തിനെ അറിയുന്നു എന്നുള്ള ഒരാശയാണ് അവർക്കുള്ളത്. അതോടൊപ്പം തന്നെ എവിടെയും അക്രമങ്ങളെ എതിർക്കുന്ന ഒരു സ്വഭാവമാണ് ഈ ക്വാക്കർ ഫാമിലിയിലുള്ള മെമ്പേഴ്സിന് കാണാൻ സാധിക്കുക. ലൂക്കാസ് ഗ്രൂ അപ്പ് ഇൻ എ മിഡിൽ ക്ലാസ് ക്വാക്കർ ഫാമിലി ഇൻ ബ്രൈറ്റൺ. He started to work as an apprenticeship to a bookseller. At first, he started to work under a bookseller. After that, he worked as a journalist. Then he moved to London. When he reached in London, he joined the staff of the newspaper The Globe. After that, he also joined in the literary journal The Academy and also the humor magazine. He also established himself as a respected reader and editor for the publishers Grant Richards and Methuen. In addition to his regular employment, he wrote or edited over 100 books. He became a prosperous and well-regarded figure in the London literary community, associating with writers such as Max Beerbohm, Arnold Bennett, and James M. Barrie. He was also interested in reading. He also proved his ability as an editor. That's why he worked as an editor for the publishers Grant Richards and Methuen. As the result, he wrote or edited more than 100 books. As the result, he became a prosperous and well-known figure in the London literary community. We can see that in that London literary community, Max Beerbohm, Arnold Bennett, James M. Barrie, all these famous writers, they were associated with the London literary community. Among them, he also became a prosperous and well-regarded figure. Lucas' flexibility and high productivity as a writer and editor enabled him to have an unusually varied career as, among other things, a humorist, essayist, novelist, anthologist, literary biographer, travel writer, and art critic. We already understood he was interested in reading and editing. He read a lot of books. So we can see that he had a high productivity as a writer and also editor. That's why he also proved his talent in his career as a humorist, essayist, novelist, anthologist, biographer, travel writer, and also art critic. He proved his ability in all these fields. One of his earliest successes as a humor writer was Wisdom While You Wait. It was published in 1902, a parody of advertisements for the Encyclopedia Britannica, written in collaboration with Charles Larcom Graves, with whom he wrote the popular By the Way column for the Globe. I already told you he also proved his ability as a humorist. He proved his ability as a humorist in his work Wisdom While You Wait. This work was published in 1902. Actually, this work he wrote as a parody of the advertisement relating Encyclopedia Britannica. He wrote this work with Charles Larcom Graves. Both of them together wrote Wisdom While You Wait. We can see that E.V. Lucas and Charles Larcom Graves wrote a humor work Wisdom While You Wait. It was published in 1902. It was a parody of advertisement for the Encyclopedia Britannica. So he also proved that it is possible for him to write with another person. Another very popular work is By the Way. By the Way, he wrote in the Globe. I think all of you remembered well, Globe. As an essayist, Lucas retained an appreciative following for 4 decades with his ability to write amusingly and engagingly about a wide variety of topics chosen to appeal to general readers. Even when he was writing an essay, he had also the ability to write amusingly and engagingly about a wide variety of topics. He had the power to make all the things in a funny way. He had the power to create all the things in the form of an essay in a funny way. His essays, many of them written for periodicals such as the London Times, Spectator, Pall Mall, Gazette and Punch, were reprinted in numerous collections including Domesticities, Fireside and Sunshine, One Day and Another, The Phantom Journal, Giving and Receiving, Visibility Good and Pleasure Trove. He wrote many essays for periodicals. The periodicals were the London Times, Spectator, Pall Mall Gazette and Punch. Later, all these essays were reprinted in numerous collections. We can go through all these essays. Domesticities. It was published in 1900. Fireside and Sunshine 1906. One Day and Another published in 1909. The Phantom Journal, it is a very famous work. It was published in 1919. Giving and Receiving It was published in 1922. Visibility Good. It was published in 1931. Pleasure Trove. It was published in 1935. Reviewers compare his novels such as Listener's Lure and Our Bremertons with his essays for their easygoing, anecdotal style. With his two-volume Life of Charles Lamb, he established himself as a respected expert on Lamb, later compiling his own editions of the works of Charles and Mary Lamb and the letters of Charles Lamb. Reviewers have the tendency to compare his novels. The novels Listener's Lure, it was published in 1906. Over Bremertons, it was published in 1908. So these novels were compared to his essays because of his easygoing and informal style. He also wrote two volumes of Life of Charles Lamb in 1905. Then he established himself as a respected expert on Lamb. Later he joined his own editions of the works of Charles and Mary Lamb. It was published in 1903 to 1905. The letters of Charles Lamb he published in 1935. Lucas' well-known book of essay are Phantom Journal and Thoughts at the Ferry. The essay School for Sympathy is an expository, informative piece of prose writing with the flavor and charm of a short story. It gives us an interesting account of a novel system of educating the young in the school kept and run by Miss Beam. His very famous essays are Phantom Journal and Thoughts at the Ferry. The another important essay is School for Sympathy. Through this essay, he is explaining an informative piece of prose writing. But we can feel that it is just like a short story. It is not written in the form of essay. Actually, School for Sympathy is an essay, but when we read that essay, we feel it is a beautiful short story. Because this essay is giving an interesting account of a novel system. Miss Beam is the protagonist in this essay. Through Miss Beam, he is giving an interest account of the system of educating the young in the school. When we go through this particular essay, we feel that it is a novel or a short story. Like that, very beautifully, he wrote the essay School for Sympathy. Lucas' work as a travel writer includes Highways and Byways in Sussex and A Wanderer in Venice, which offer his impressions on traveling in England and other parts of Europe. Fine art is a frequent topic in Lucas' travel books and essays, and he wrote several works on the subject of art, including a set of monographs on European masters such as Michelangelo, Rembrandt, and Leonardo da Vinci, a biographer of the painter Edwin Austin Abbey, and the British School, a guide to paintings in London's National Gallery. 1. He was a travel writer. At the same time, he was also interested in fine art. His very famous travelogues are Highways and Byways in Sussex. It was published in 1904. The next one is Wanderer in Venice. It was published in 1914. Wanderer in Venice, through that travelogue, he is sharing the experiences in England and other parts of Europe. He was also interested in fine arts. He had the habit to add fine art as a topic in his travel books and also essays. Relating fine arts, he wrote many travelogues and also essays. He also wrote monographs. What is monographs? Monographs is a detailed written study of a single specialized subject. ഏതെങ്കിലും ഒരു സബ്ജക്റ്റിൽ ഡീറ്റെയിൽ ആയിട്ടുള്ള ഒരു സ്റ്റഡി നടത്തുന്നതിനെയാണ് മോണോഗ്രാഫ്സ് എന്ന് പറയാം. So he also wrote monographs relating fine art. He also wrote the details of European masters, Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, through his works. He also wrote the biography of the painter Edwin Austin Abbey. The biography is The British School. The British School was published in 1913. Actually, this biography, The British School, it is kept in the London's National Gallery 1 as a guide to paintings. I repeat, E.V. Lucas also wrote a biography of the painter Edwin Austin Abbey. He also wrote another biography, I think all of you remembered well, biography of Charles Lamb. In addition to his original writings, Lucas edited several anthologies of prose and verse, each centered on a particular subject. Among these are the best-selling The Open Road, about travels in the countryside, The Friendly Town, about London, and The Hambledon Men, which contains material by Lucas and others about his favorite sport, cricket. We can see that he also wrote prose and also poems. He was interested in reading, sports, domestic life, fine arts, like that all the subjects in this world. The Open Road, it was published in 1899. The Friendly Town, it was published in 1905. Actually, these are the best selling travelogues. The Open Road and The Friendly Town. These travelogues gives a clear idea about London. When we are going through his another work, The Hambledon Men, we will get the details of his favorite sport, cricket. Through this book, The Hambledon Men, he was speaking about his favorite cricket. Critics describe Lucas as a genial entertainer, witty and capable of unusual insights, but reluctant to offer self-revealing thoughts that might have given his writings deeper significance. After World War I, however, Lucas' light, impersonal style was less in tune with literary fashions, and after his death, interest in his work among critics and readers waned. As for his works on Lamb, which once confirmed his literary prestige, more recent scholarship has greatly lessened this importance. Critics state that Lucas, as a friendly and cheerful entertainer, We already understood. He proved his ability as a humorist. At the same time, he was witty. He was very clever. He had the ability to think the future with wisdom. But at the same time, he didn't reveal his self-revealing thoughts. During his lifetime, Lucas enjoyed the respect of many of his most distinguished peers, including Edmund Gosse, who called him the best living essayist since Robert Louis Stevenson. When he was alive, he got a lot of appreciation from his contemporaries. But after World War I, his impersonal style was less in tune with the literary fashions. After his death, the critics and readers, they already lost the interest in Lucas' works. We almost covered all the points relating E.V. Lucas. You should read the page number 105 in your textbook. We will start the chapter Bores written by E.V. Lucas in our next class. Thank you.